Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of what if Superboy, also known as Jonathan Kent, was in the My Hero Academia universe. If you've missed the previous episode, there will be a link in the description below and the annotation above. If you happen to be new, you can always hit that big red button, and if you enjoy this series or want to see it continue, hit that subscribe button. Quick reminder, I have a Discord if you guys want to check it out, link in the description below. So, after getting the news from UA, John gets super excited, runs out into the living room, and jumps onto his father saying, "I passed!" Clark puts John down and says, "Congrats, kiddo. Now I guess it's time we design your suit and get all the forms in order before school starts." John asks, "What do you mean?" His father elaborates, "Well, we have to send the school your quirk registration and make the suit forms using the clothing allowance and all that stuff." John looks at his father and says, "Awesome!" And after a bit of thinking says, "But I don't really have a quirk." Clark puts his hand on his son's shoulder and says, "Well, yeah, we don't, but this society of in this society our powers pass as quirks, so we'll just put in the forms that you have the same quirk as me, like we always do." John says, "Okay." Clark asks, "Want to start on your hero suit design?" And John says yes, and runs into his room excited and starts drawing some ideas down. Lois smiles on Clark, and Clark turns to her and asks, "What is it?" Lois sips a bit of coffee and says, "Nothing. It's just you still talk to him as if he were 10. Clark jokingly says, "Wait, how old is he again? 11? 9? Lois says, 15. Clark says, "Oh, right. I treat him like I would treat anyone else." A couple of days later, John takes the train to go to his first day at UA. John walks out of the train, and on his way to school, he finds a car stuck in a small ditch. The owner is currently on the phone trying to call someone for help. John passes by and asks him, "Do you need any help?" The car owner says, "Go away, kid. My car's stuck. I don't think you can do anything about it. So just scram." John then pulls the car out of the ditch and says, "There you go." The car owner then thanks John and gets into his car and drives away, back to work. John continues his walk towards school, and after a couple of minutes he finds himself in front of the gates. He thinks to himself, "Well, this is it. A journey of 1,000 steps, and this is the first one." Then, as he takes his small step into the school, a green-haired boy walks right beside him. John says, "Hi." Midoriya turns to John and says, "Hi." John looks at Midoriya and says, "Wait, I heard of you. You're the one who destroyed the 0-point robot with one punch and broke all his bones, right? You must have an awesome quirk." Midoriya blushes and says, "Well, it wasn't much. It really screwed up my body, though." John then says, "Oh, and you were also talking during the explanation of the exercise." Midoriya thinks, "I really wish people wouldn't remember me from that." The two of them start walking to the classrooms while talking. John asks, "So what class are you in?" Midoriya says, "Class 1" out his student ID while saying, "Not sure. I'm in Class 1B. The two of them reach Class 1A and Midoriya says, "Well, this is my class. John keeps walking and says, "See you later then." Midoriya, was it? Midoriya just says, "See you later." For him, things go like in canon, but in this story, he's not the protagonist. John then goes to Class 1B and looks at the door. John thinks, "Is this door made for Giganta or something?" He then opens the door to see Monoma saying to a black-haired boy, "So you think you're better than me just because you went to some fancy private school in America?" The boy says, "No, I'm better than you because I got into school through a recommendation, unlike you." Monoma laughs and says, "If you're so much better than me, why don't you prove it?" The boy makes a t sound and says, "No thanks." Tetsu is kind of freaking out Awase, and there are two kids talking to each other at super speed in the background. Awase is the guy who can wield stuff together. John then looks at the black-haired boy and wonders for a moment. He then recognizes him and says, "Damien? Is that you?" Damien looks at John with the corner of his eye and says, "Hello, Jonathan. How have you been?" John says, "Great! After all, I'm here. How have you been? How did you even get into this school? I didn't see you in the entrance exam." Damien says, "I have been doing well. And, well, I got in through recommendation. There was a special exam. I was kind of surprised not to see you there, actually." John says, "Yeah, my dad was supposed to send in the letter, but got too busy and forgot." Damien says, "Understandable. Your father seems to be stretched himself too thin constantly." In the background, a guy with some tattoos asks Manga Fukidashi, the guy with the manga head, like the speech bubble head, "Do those two know each other or something?" Fukidashi says, I think so, I don't know." Monoma asks John, "Who is your father to be so important that he's always so busy?" John says, "Superman," and continues talking to Damien. The whole class is stunned to hear that and start mumbling and speculating. Juzo Hunekuri, one of the Class B people, says, "He must be lying, otherwise he would be here through recommendation, not like everyone else." John doesn't really pay attention to the mothers and asks Damien, "It's been so long, how have you been? Sorry about what happened to your father." A man dressed in a black costume with some blue elements to it and with two scrim sticks coming out the back walks into the class while reading a clipboard. He whispers, "Man, this stuff is so confusing." People look at him and wonder who he is. The man takes the podium and says, "Hello, students. Please take your seats." Everyone then sits down. The man then starts counting the students and says, "Okay, looks like we're all here. First, pardon my Japanese. I started learning only about 3 weeks ago, so if I mispronounce anything, sorry. Second, you're probably wondering who I am. Well, my name is Richard Grayson. I was an apprentice of the infamous hero, famous for being the only quirkless hero, Bruce Wayne, otherwise known as Batman. You guys can address me as either Mr. Grayson or Nightwing, whatever you prefer." The student with the tattoos raises his hand. Dick checks the list and says, "Yes, Mr. Calderon." Calder asks, "I thought our homeroom teacher was supposed to be Vlad King. Also, wasn't your alias Robin?" Dick says, "Yes, Vlad King was supposed to be your homeroom teacher, but as a personal favor, the principal let me be the homeroom teacher." It's kind of very last minute. As for the Robin thing, it's a code name that the apprentices of Bruce had to take until they chose one suited for themselves. I had it for too long and it kind of stuck. Any more questions? 3 more students raise their hands. Nightwing says that aren't about Batman or my experiences with Batman. And the students put their hands down. Nightwing then says, "Great, then let's go. If I'm not mistaken, orientation starts in about 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, the students of Class 1B attend orientation along with everyone else at the school. The principal gives a speech about heroics and starting a new path and continuing the one you are on. Afterwards, in this case, Dick Grayson, Jefferson Pierce, and Corey Anders are presented along with, and afterwards, all the other teachers that have been attending the faculty since before then. Class 1A is noticeably absent, and Nightwing asks why. The answer he gets, but he doesn't really get an answer is the point. After initiation, Dick returns to class and they go over the plans for the next school year. Dick says, "Well, that is how it's supposed to go, but since schools like UA are held in such high regard and their hero landscape keeps changing so much, the teachers are allowed to do whatever we see fit in order to make you grow in this ever-changing society." Dick checks the clock and thinks still 20 minutes left until the end of the school day. He then says, "So, all that said, please remember that tomorrow we are starting off with some pretty serious stuff, and if you haven't submitted all your forms yet, please remember to do so. The class will not be waiting for you." Kendo asks, "Are you letting us go already? There are still like 20 minutes of class left." Dick says, I have nothing else planned for today and expected you to be more rowdy, so we got through my plan a bit quicker than expected. So yeah, you're dismissed. The moment Dick says that, two of the students zoom out of the class, out of the running home. Dick says, those are Barry's kids, alright? John asks Damien, so, where are you living? Damien says, small apartment in about half an hour by train. Damien then puts his backpack on and starts walking away. John follows him and asks, who's taking care of you? Damien says, I take care of myself. John laughs and says, no, seriously. Damien looks at John like I am serious. John says, man, with you in my class, this year is going to be great. Damien says, it certainly will be interesting. And they both go home. And that's where I'm going to end this part. A small comment before I end it. For a while, I wanted to do an incorporation of the DC universe into the My Hero Academia universe. However, something I do regret of the Spider-Man one was I didn't put more Marvel characters into the main UA, like no more heroes in the hero course. So in this What If, I rectified it, like I did with the DC universe. I at least wanted Damien in the class, but also wanted a couple other characters, and didn't want to get rid of Class 1A characters since I love them all so much, or most of them. At least getting rid of a big chunk would have been like, no, and I would have had to gotten rid of either Todoroki or Yaoyorozu, because Damien gets in through the recommendations. I also planned on doing What If Deku was in Class 1B at one point, so I decided to merge the two here and tell the story from Class 1B's perspective. Also changing the teacher and all that because it's more fun. I hope the fact that this is going like this doesn't bother you guys, that it's a focus on Class 1B. If it does, I will make another video I will make another series like this in the future where it's in Class 1A. And if you guys want to see more Class 1B stuff, you can always ask for it in the comments. But for now, I want to explore this version of events. So yeah, I think it can be very interesting, and I can take a lot of liberties coming up with the story, like making it original and fun, seeing as I'm not tethered to what we were shown in the anime. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit that like button, and if you're new, consider subscribing. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. And yeah. Also, I want to remind you I have a Discord, and until next time, have a nice day, everyone.